Hello everyone, welcome back to Cruel and Unusual Storytime, the show where we don't just read the stories, we talk about them. We applaud what makes the good stories great, and we point out what makes the bad stories stupid. I am your host, Simon Dexter, and today we are resuming our read-through of Pacifica's Wish. Definitely one of the only fanfiction I've read on this channel that I could call decent. I'd even call it good. I do have my nitpicks, but they're my nitpicks. And frankly, what matters at the end of the day is the story is at least enjoyable for the most part. Save for like the one or two chapters that are strictly reiterating shit I've already read. But it's their choice. It's fine. I'm actually looking forward to this chapter because we left off on another bit of a cliffhanger. So, let's stop talking and see where this goes. Sit back, relax, let's enjoy Pacifica's Wish, Chapter 12. I froze in horror. My father? Here? Now? I will say, though, I'm actually kind of getting used to the caps lock. They've used it enough that I'm kind of getting desensitized to it, I guess. So good on them, they broke me. Just when things were starting to look up. How did he track me down? Could have been the tire... Why'd you spell tire with a Y? Been the tire marks left by Stanley's erratic driving near the scene of the crime? Perhaps one of our aging servants did spot me as I seized by Mabel and company. Maybe there were hidden cameras that I hadn't been told about at the Northwest Mansion I wasn't aware of that had picked up everything. Who knows? What I am sure of now is the fact that I'm in big, big trouble. My father probably assumes that as I was taken here by force. That much is true. I'm still being held captive inside, desperate to escape. That's why the cavalry are here. You mean the cavalry was here? Fuck it. Knowing him, as soon as I'm rescued, he'll insist I press charges so that good old Stanley can be in the cell next to Gideon and the Pines twins are taken into care. Again, if we recall. We don't want that. Did I mention that my dad isn't a very nice person? Yeah, a couple times, but I also gathered. Anyway, staring at him now, with his face resembling a tomato, on the verge of exploding, I can tell that he is very, very angry. And this is coming from someone who's been subjected to him at his worst. So take my word for it. I dread to think of how he'll react when he finds out that over the course of the last few hours I've done a complete 180-degree turn in my way of thinking, by deciding to change my ways permanently and restore the Northwest name by taking it in a new, more humanitarian direction. Not well. Not well at all. Fuck. No. Answer, he'll flip his lid. Or he'll flit his lid, as it's written here for some reason. Well, it's just something he'll have to learn to accept. Ha-ha! It looks like he's about to punch Stanley, which probably isn't a good idea, since when I heard that older Stan is a bit handy with his fists. Stanford looks like he's wilting a bit under the pressure. He can tell who protected who when they went to school together. I'll neither will hold it against me that my father has decided to bring half the precinct here tonight in his quest to find his darling daughter, quote-unquote. He was merely doing what any doting parent would do for their most precious possession. I mean, girl. Sorry. They have really good delivery. Like, for writing, especially. Suddenly I hear the static on the loudspeaker as the unmistakable voice of Sheriff Blubbs could be heard in the night air. Okay, you see right here, this is actually a very good use of the caps lock, because if she can hear it from the house, it's that loud. To the inhabitants of the Mystery Shack. I cannot do Kevin Michael Richardson's voice for the life of me. Please. Please cut me some slack. Because his voice is just magical in its own way. He drawled, Pacifica, at least Northwest is in there. Please release her unharmed. We promise no one will be hurt. Psst, Derlin, grab the guns and grenades. Go around the back. Huh? What do you mean it's still on? Oops. Disregard those last few words. I was thinking about something else. We all want a peaceful resolution. Fuck. I can't. Why do I keep trying to scroll down to my computer when it's on my phone? I'm having an off day. Ignoring the half-baked ramblings of the inept officer, I turned back to my new friends, who were still staring at the manic scene in front of them. What do I do? I screeched, the one person I thought was sensible enough to help me find a way out of this mess. His name starts with a D, in case you don't know who I'm referring to. Also, he's the only guy in the room. Give us some credit. We're not that stupid. Especially when we've been reading this in order. Starting to hyperventilate. like I used to in the bad old days, when my dad would stand over my pathetic form, bell in hand, ready to administer justice with his belt. Calm down, Pacifica, said the cab boy beside me. We'll find some way out of this. Together. I felt him squeezing my hand and my cheeks flushed red. No time to think about that now, as Mabel was running around like a lunatic. A couple extra U's there, for reasons unknown. Throwing anything she could lay her hands on in the bag. The same one they transported me here in by the looks of things. We'll need food. About 50 bars of chocolate should do it. Something to drink. Dipper, have you still got that crate of lemonade we took from home? Somewhere to sleep. Oh, we can camp out. I'll leave the note for our grunkles. Tell them we'll be back when this is all blown over. Is there enough space in the sack for Waddles? Mabel, her brother said. Come on, sweetheart. We're going on a little trip, Mabel pleaded with her pet to stop licking that unknown splotch on Dipper's side so that he could be packed away. Mabel, Dipper was starting to lose patience. You also forgot your, quotes there, but I got the gist, so we're not going to worry about it too much. There's a good pig. Come on, whatever it is you're eating, I'll get you more of it as soon as we hit the road. Mabel was urging her porcine companion to pay attention. I'm not going to look that up. I'm going to assume you did that right, though. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Mabel! The younger mysterious twin finally snapped, which had the desired effect of breaking his twin out of her trance. There's a dipstick. Can't you see I've got lots of work to do before we elope tonight? And the sooner I get it started, the sooner we can leave. And count the stars in the sky before we drift off. Mabel paused for a minute, savoring this poetic image in her mind. Sis, that's not going to help anyone, Dipper groaned. The police will still be after us. Candy and Grenda have homes to go to. In case you don't know, the definition of elope is what lovers do when they run away together, not us. Unless you're reading Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, which that's another horrible story. It's in my playlist if you're interested and haven't watched it yet. Mabel stared at her sibling for a second before an evil grin slowly worked its way into her mouth. You sure about that? The way you know about what that word means, and just look at you holding on to Pacifica's hand as if your life depends on it. It makes me think something's happening here. She eyed us both with a glint in her eye. What? Dipper quickly pulled away from me, using the same hand to pull down the rim of his cap as if he was trying to hide something. His blush. That cute. Don't be silly. I could never Oh, Dipper, why would you go there? This goes badly. Call it reader's intuition. He struggled to finish with a sentence without unintentionally offending me. Oh, she took it well. Good. Hopefully. We'll see. What I mean to say is we've only just become friends for the first time in years. Again, I added the again because they were technically friends before, I think. But you get my point. Give us a chance to reacquaint ourselves first before you start booking the church. Mabel was undeterred. Oh, so you mean there is a chance? Woohoo! Grenda, I've got a great idea. After you marry Marius, we can use the same dresses to Paz and Dip Dop's wedding. The two girls were ecstatic at the idea and were already discussing materials, patterns, and colors of outfits. In the middle of a siege. I think me and Dipper facepalmed at the same time there. If you're being really picky, I suppose, he may have been a microsecond faster. But we're talking margins here. You see, that's the kind of humor I could appreciate. Where it's like, okay, if you're being real picky, obviously he may have been a little faster. But that's not the point. So, see, shit like that. I like. In fact, so caught up were we in our inconsequential conversation, we completely failed to notice the lights of the helicopter shining through the window. Before it was too late. How do you miss that? I guess Mabel makes sense, but Dipper and Pacifica, you'd think. All of us turned around to the sound of rotor blades and the sight of men with what looked like guns trained on us through the glass. But just kids, man. Calm down. Shit. Lost my spot. Where'd it go? Wow, I guess the local forces are taking this seriously. Looks like they've deployed half their resources to this hostage situation alone. One of the occupants of the airborne vehicle, full of snipers, addressed us in a very brusque, uncompromising manner. It's all over, kids. Maybe surrounded. Come up with their hands up. We have permission to shoot. Oh, dear God, man, they're 16. This is going to go so wrong so fast from a PR standpoint. Wow, I thought. Surely that can't be the case. Not for minors, see? On the same page. But then I realized the Northwest practically owned this town, so if we wanted to elicit child murder and get away with it, all it would take is a few easy backhanders, and it would all be quietly brushed under the metaphorical carpet. Touché. Have me there. Ah, my family. How did I tolerate them for so long? When you're brainwashed, honey, you tolerate anything. Me, Candy, Grenda, Dipper, and Mabel realized we had no option. Nodding to each other, we raised our arms and slowly backed away from the window. Encouraged by our surrender, the commanding voice nevertheless spoke again. Come back, computer. Though perhaps less severe this time. Okay, good. Now just head downstairs, and our officers will be ready to meet with you. We don't want anyone to be harmed, so cooperate, and it'll all be over soon. The speaker then pointed out something to the pilot, who then drove the helicopter away into the distance, I'm assuming to a patch of land. Just after that, we heard a lot of banging around on the first floor. It sounded like 2 stands had been taken into custody, allowing the law to have free reign of the place. There was really no way out. I felt a little scared. What would happen next? That I'd be returned home. Goody. Did the party go on without me? I didn't really care at this point. What would I say to my parents? I already knew I was going to beg them to go easy on my so-called kidnappers. Perhaps I could say it was a party game that we had all devised. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Northwest, you abducted your offspring just before her big society ball because we thought it would be hilarious to have you going out of your heads with worry and the notion she might be hurt, dead, or worse. No hard feelings, huh? Leave us hanging, bro. Now, I don't think that was going to work somehow. I pondered all my options as I descended the stairs with the others. I can already see there were more cops in protective gear around the shack than I'd ever seen customers. Okay, I don't know why that didn't click for my head for some reason. I don't think they were here to buy anything, though. I don't think they're... On the contrary, though, they look to be smashing stuff up, big time. Dudes. That's their livelihood. Well, Stanley's. I really need to get caught up with Gravity Falls, now that I think about it. Sooner rather than later. Anyway. The wooden counter split in two. There was I Was Bedazzled at the Mystery Shack t-shirts designed by Mabel, naturally. T-shirts everywhere, and you use t-shirts twice for some reason. And a miniature Stanley's head on a spring hitting me on the shoulder as I passed the shelves. Getting a little violent. I should stay this way, 'cause this way I'm not doing this and covering my face like a moron. I looked down at the pitiful broken toy as it lay there on the ground, and silently murmured to it as if I was talking to the skinflint himself. Sorry, man. Regardless of the future of the decrepit building, which hadn't looked this beat up since that day of the earthquake, I had my own priorities to take care of. As soon as they spotted us, 10 policemen immediately ceased their needless and heedless destruction to hem out our little group into a tiny space. Really wish my camera would stop doing that while I'm reading and I'm not noticing the camera stopped, because then I just read for like 5 minutes and not notice I'm not being recorded. Anyway. I have to kind of find where I was again. To hem out our little group into a tiny space where we couldn't move an inch. Mabel to my left, Dipper on my right, Candy and Grendo just in front. They were yelling at us to do something, but because they were all shouting at once, it was impossible to make out what was being said. We just stood there, nonplussed, arms aloft, and frightened out of our wits. You could cut the tension with a knife. Suddenly, one of the officers, obviously intimidated by the size of Grenda, lashed out, completely unprovoked, hitting her with the butt of his rifle, to an accompanying grisly crunching noise, making her stumble back and her broken nose erupts to a sea of blood. This is getting a bit harsh, I feel. Dipper, who had been protectively hovering over my form, gnashed his teeth at and like the gentleman he is, made a dive for the anonymous brute who assaulted her. Big mistake, especially seeing his Dipper is kind of a twerp. This does not go well for him. No sooner had he made his move, he was tackled by several men at once, while the rest of the girls were roughly pushed towards the entrance. Whereas now that I'd been spotted, I felt a hand slip into mine, pulling me forward. I looked up to the helmet-wearing face of my rescuer just before I removed the visor. He told me in a soothing tone, "It's all right, miss. You're safe now. Your parents are waiting for you outside. Please, come this way." And with that, he guided me to my not-so-long-awaited reunion, while I could focus on what had happened to my friends. As soon as I got to the front door, wow, it was like a media frenzy. Aside from the completely over-the-top police presence, there were major news organizations from all over America here. Jeez Louise. Perfectly coiffured. That's a word I don't know. It's always impressive when the stories give me words I have no idea what the fuck that means. I'm assuming it means coiffed hair, like coiffured, right? Right? Yeah, let's go with that. Reporters standing around with their cappuccinos, wittering away about how the poor Northwest heiress had been brutally captured on the eve of her sweet 16th rather than 16th. And relocated to this shabby little hut in the woods, mistreated and tortured until the brave officer had found her in the nick of time and saved her life. Yeah, whatever. Then you had the locals being held back by makeshift barriers while they trying to get a glimpse of just what on earth was going on. To turn their quaint little town to an international story in the space of one night, Tambra was there alone, snapping away. She still hadn't gotten over her cell phone addiction, but apparently over her former boyfriend. And poor old Toby Determined Toby! He's my favorite. Living up to his surname, as he desperately tried to break his way through the throngs to get his headline, but being completely overwhelmed by his much more well-known journalist colleagues. In the background, the whirl of rollerblades could still be heard, and even more police cars started arriving. Even though the crisis was now over, my parents still had to make a scene. I knew they milked this for all it was worth, with me as their main pawn. Shit. Speak of the devil. Literally. Pacifica, darling, you're fine. That was my dad, alright. You notice I had to change tone in there because I had no idea which parent it was, so I had to kind of slightly glimpse ahead. That was my dad, alright. As I felt his strong arms around me in the most stiff and unconvincing of hugs. We were so worried, you have no idea. Me and your mother have been beside ourselves with... He glanced to the right, and I followed his eyes. And there was my mom posing for the cameras as if modeling for Vogue. Typical. Why else do you think she spent enough plastic surgery to clear most of the third world's country's debts? Priscilla! My father bellowed out in the middle of her posturing, and straightaway she snapped out of her vain facade to join us. Big phony smile showing up on her plastic lips, and to think she wanted me to have the same procedure done in a few years. I think the way Pacifica's design's really cute, so fuck her. No thanks, Mom. I'd rather not be a walking, talking Barbie doll. No one would, except for the literal walking, talking Barbie doll, but I heard she's kind of a bitch. Oh, my little angel! Screeched the lady herself. Oh, that thrashed. Don't do that again, Simon. Smothering me with kisses. Those awful, awful people, don't worry. I'll make sure they're locked up forever, and then we'll bulldoze his eyesore down to the ground. She pointed at the mystery shack while I got a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. And the caps lock really works for them because it makes them far more annoying. So, good job on you there. Suddenly I felt myself being navigated into position as my parents stood behind me, no doubts, readying themselves to pose for the image that we splashed all over the front pages tomorrow. Perfect family back together, the text underneath would scream. If only they knew the truth. In the midst of all the flashes of light, something caught my attention to the left. 'Twas Chad, who had somehow managed to drive his car to the corner of the pandemonium spread out before me, and was even now pointing his back seat with a smug smear as if he's still expecting me to spread my legs for him that night. And I'm just thinking, with her, really, dude? Like, this isn't bad enough. Frankly, I wouldn't expect it for a while after this. Maybe I'm just more realistic. And guess who was long beside him? That's right, my two besties, Tiffany and Chantal. Tiff was wearing a "I've rocked with several times" t-shirt, indicating that they had started the concert without me, those ungrateful. While Shan, sorry. Had a big piece of expensive cake in her hand, suggesting that they'd already polished off dinner too. And so much for her diet. Get off me! Mabel, where are you? Oh my gosh, that was Dipper's voice. Coming from out, I twisted my head once again and saw the boy in question being carried out by no less than 4 cops, while he fidgeted like crazy and lashed out. He couldn't see his sister, but I could, in the back of a police car, crying her heart out with Candy and Greta, who had a large piece of red cloth to her nose. I was like, I believe they broke her nose. That seems a bit harsh. Also present were the 2 Stans, who were being led away from the other teenagers and put in a separate vehicle. Of the two, Stanley seemed to have put up the most resistance, as one would figure. He was limping a bit and sported an impressive black eye. Stanford looked like someone who had just accepted his fate meekly. He walked along, head bowed, probably worried the secret experiments in the room behind the vending machine would be discovered by interlopers. Yes, I do know about them, you know. I was once reasonably close to the family, once upon a time. As my sorry parents, sorry, I don't know why my mind did that, preened and smirked in front of the lenses, it got me thinking. This was like a choice. Left or right. Go left, listen to my mother and father, stick with my old ways and friends. So it would be much easier, and no one would ever know I almost veered off course. Or go right. Stand with my mom and dad, change myself, and ditch my former acquaintances. It would be unbelievably tough, and I could stand to lose everything. It's like a fucking choice in Until Dawn or a Telltale game. It's kind of hard which choice would be better, because one might be easier but more horrible, the other might be more difficult but better off in the end. Just keep in mind, I fucking love Telltale games, and Until Dawn is definitely one of my favorite games, period. It's brilliant, brilliant game. Even though it's more of an interactive story than a game, but you get my point. I could stand to lose everything. Come on, Pacifica. It's time to make up your mind. The clock's ticking. Tick-tock. Come on, girl, you can do this. Or maybe I couldn't. My eyes flitted around rapidly. I was desperate for something. Anything that could help me make this major decision. Then I saw it. It was Stanley. The same man I'd poured my little heart out to when the twins had gone away the first time. He'd comforted me despite my earlier behavior. Let me into the shack despite me calling it a grotty little hovel. Allowed me to befriend his employees despite being from a totally different social class, and gave Mabel permission to carry out her highly volatile plan that evening to set me straight. Why can't I read? It's what I do, for God's sake. Despite the fact that it looked like it was going to lead to the destruction of the shack and a long-term imprisonment for him. Basically, despite his couldn't-care-less demeanor, he'd always been there. And this is how I repaid him? Closing down his business and sending him to jail, and worst of all, having his precious niece and nephew taken away again. After they waited so long to live here, some gratitude I'd showed. I could see it in his face, his facial expression now as he looked at me, a mixture of sorrow, betrayal, and anger. It wasn't very pleasant to gaze on, but at least brought me back to reality. Breaking free of my parents' grip and ignoring their cries of surprise, I grabbed the nearest mic. It's M-I-C, not Mike as in, well, my dad's name, off of one of the newscasters, and put my face to the camera which happened to be broadcasting worldwide. Listen, everyone, I yelled. I have something important to say now. And that is all the time I have for today, so we're going to call it there. I will see you all next week, starting with our next Creepypasta Friday, where we will be resuming our Happy Appy read. So until then, you all have a wonderful day.